For democracy. I'm sorry I have to limit to one question, but so I would ask Aydin Libe, with what you said, and I agree with you fully, but as we are approaching to break down this military entity into diverse groups who have different opinions and who hopefully going to help in that transition that you were referring to, I would like to know, what do you think what civil society actors can contribute to bring about this new proxy that you were talking about in the most direct way? So not in, of course there are many ways that civil society can contribute, but what is the most direct way that civil society can contribute to what you were?
You know, thanks for the question. I wish I really knew and formula for that, because here's the reason. I do study international relations mostly, except the security actors, but the civil society, first of all, in Turkey, that again is probably going through major transformation. There are a lot of debates, controversies. What is society? What is not? Some actors are deeply involved in these processes, and very interestingly, for example, some of the this Ergenekon case, for example, some of the entities that were charged against, even 4 or 5 years ago, they were considered as part of the civil society. So we are going through some type of an influx. Therefore, it's not really easy to give a specific answer to that question, what civil society elements should do, but what sensible civil society, let's say, elements should do. I think, first of all, we need to keep debating. That's key. Some of us think that there is already too much of the debating in Turkey, but I think it has to continue non-stop. And as a person, actually, as a Turkish citizen, what I would like to see, for example, is more sophisticated contribution of civil societal elements. Not these kind of the frenzies and kind of quick demonstrative things, but rather serious reports. For example, serious reports, and that would be as objective as possible, because we seem to be running also into that issue that the polarization seems to be affecting also civil societal elements. The more objective analysis based on real facts, data, some even trajectory analysis, those type of things seem to be a little bit, at least for a citizen like me, missing. And what happens then, for example, we don't see the things that we are supposed to be seeing. Many of us among the civil societal entities, for example, they would automatically think that they should be anti the army. Who says that? That it can't be that way, right? We don't have to be anti-something immediately. Then we don't see, for example, whether there was anything in there maybe progressive. That's what happened to the academics. For a long time we thought that the military was a unitary in its thinking. It wasn't, but we missed it. Why? Because we wanted to see it that way. So more sophisticated debate among the civil society elements might give us opportunity to see things probably more accurately.
Well, mine was more like an intervention. As you might imagine, the most civil society is women's organizations. So, and who are fighting for women's empowerment and creating more civil world, non-military civil world. So mine was more like provocative insertion.
Presentation, and I want to ask, did you do it intentionally, or you just maybe you didn't have time to cover these two issues? The first one is the participation of the private sector and private sector spillover on the headscarf ban. Since 2002, the situation is different to many people, according to many people in Turkey. Now, maybe in previous years, in 70s, 80s, the women with headscarf were discriminated in private sectors because of their relationship with the states. But since 2002, most of the local governments and municipalities are AKP and more Islamic-leaned organizations. So many private sector companies intend to discriminate in favor of headscarf women in Turkey. I think this is also discrimination and a negative effect to gender equality. And the second question is the labor market participation by the headscarf women in Turkey. I think the problem, there's also another problem here. I think the problem here is not only the ban on the clothing or the clothes, but also the lifestyle. Many seculars in Turkey. I mean, I'm not supporting the ban, or I'm not arguing that this should not be, the headscarf women should not serve at the government level or state organizations, but it's a complicated issue. And the fact that many headscarf women do not want to practice, like in certain areas of the state organizations or agencies, or having headscarf women in certain positions might harm the objectivity of the state. The judiciary issue, the having a headscarf judge is like, those issues also, I think, harm the gender equality. I think I want to ask why you missed, or you didn't talk about these 2 points. Thank you.
Start with the second one because I couldn't take notes for the second one. It is a complicated issue. Of course it's a complicated issue, but it's a very complicated issue when the husbands or the brothers of these women who are as religious, you can imagine, right? You marry with someone who are similar to you, so their participation to may be perceived as problematic as well. But if 70% of population is done, can we see 70% of population participation to state as problematic? I'm not sure. So this is my response to this complicated issue stuff. But it is a gendered issue. You have to see it. It is, the headscarf ban is not about secularism. It's basically willingly or unwillingly discriminating women from the labor force, from the educational system, and blocking women's empowerment. And that is something that we should kind of open our eyes and see. And the lifestyle issue, this woman wouldn't want to work, we don't know. At least you don't know. I do know the women who are higher educated women do want to participate to the labor market. It's more complicated. You have to think about the meaning of higher education in Turkey. How does golden bracelet mean? I had participated in my presentation, but I didn't have time to talk about it. The means yet to be promoted. They don't even. I can give you a case, for example. This woman is a lawyer. She got her law degree. She's head covered, and she's been hired by the municipality. Sounds like a success story, right? She made it. Well, not really, because the municipality, some municipality, by the way, do not want her to be visible. So therefore, they don't send her to the clients. They don't send her to the court. Well, she can't go to the court anyway. So therefore, her position is extremely marginalized. Even the place that she sits in the office is in the basement. Because nobody wants to see, because of the same impression that we have been saying, all these municipalities are hiring this headscarf women. So the municipality wants to protect itself to the extent possible by not making headscarf ban visible. So therefore, this is what my research was about, when women get jobs, though very rare, but when they get jobs, they are paid less than men, and they are paid less than the other women. they don't get promoted. They are being discriminated against because of the structure. That's what I've been explaining in this book. It's because of the structure of the private and the public sector. And when there's a need for cut downs, when some people have to, leave the ship, women are the first to let go.
My question was discrimination against non-headscarf women in those companies dealing with local governments, maybe.
Number one, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much of a time. I haven't looked at unscarf women.
My question is somewhat related to the previous question. In your findings, you associate decline in labor market participation by women in Turkey.
Like that. We don't. The data that we have is provided by Çalışma Bakanlığı, and actually that's what the World Bank has been using. That's what the other agencies have been using. But that data do not provide us about the proportion of head-covered and non-head-covered women. But if it is, and if there is an increase, it's only understandable because in the last 30, 40 years, the major shift from rural to urban, which existed in my paper, but I don't have time to talk about it. The major shift from rural to urban is an important element. The access to education is another element. And again, we are talking about 70% of the population. So,
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
no, I don't say secularism is a woman thought. My paper was titled Secularism and Women. So I was kind of posing the question that why do we not think about secularism and men, but rather secularism and women? Because one of the key elements of Turkish secularism is women's equality. And as a matter of fact, but at the point that we are right now, it's working against women, not for women. That I don't know, I was trying to speak.
I think I have to clarify at least one point from a legal perspective on this ban on headscarves, women's headscarves. As far as this ban is concerned, we have legal restrictions on male clothing in Turkish legal system, but no restrictions on women's clothing, even in the higher education institutions. The ban, the source of this ban is an interpretive decision made by the Constitutional Court back in 1991, and the Constitutional Court made a very interesting justification for its decision, saying that not only headscarves, but any kind of clothing that is against modernity, that conflicts with the norms of modernity, should be banned to protect secular qualification of the Turkish Republic. But this is a statement in the justification of a Constitutional Court rule back in 1989, and it is repeated in 1991 decision. So, this ban on women's headscarves have become a common practice in Turkish universities and higher education institutions after 28 September 1997 postmodern, let's say, I used the journalistic term, coup d'etat. So the ban has no legal basis, but it has a sociological dimension, and I think Dilek represented it quite clearly, but male clothing has legal restrictions, but it doesn't cause any problems.